welcome to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Welcome to our International Food, Wine, Travel Writer Association second Friday Big Blend Radio Vacation Station Travel Show. And today we're happy to have wine and travel writer Cori Solomon back on our show. She's the publisher of WrittenPalette.com, and she's joining us to talk about her wine tasting adventures in Livermore and the Tri-Valley region of California. So it's kind of like the East Bay area. Nancy and I have looked at it on the map, and we wanted to go there because part of our, Love Your Parks tour is to go to every single unit within the National Park System, and Eugene O'Neill National Historic Site is out there. So we've got history and we've got wine, and apparently there's a lot of wine history where Cori hung out. So I think we need to go.
That sounds all right. You say grapes, I'm going.
There's grapes, there's history, and beautiful views. From what I've seen on her photographs and reading her article, definitely a place to go. Everyone, you can read her article about her experiences in the November through January issue of Big Blend Radio and TV magazine. However, it's up on blendradioandtv.com. You can see that now. Now, also, Cori is a member of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. This is a show we do every second Friday, and you can go to their website, ifwtwa.org. If you're a travel writer, a blogger, a food writer, a photographer, a destination, definitely this is the hub that you need to go and connect with. So, welcome back, Cori. How are you?
I'm great. Glad to be on.
Hey, this looks like such a beautiful area, and I was on the website for the Livermore, the wine region. There's lvwine.org, everybody. You've got your wine associations everywhere around the country, but this one definitely lvwine.org, but also for the destination, the region, is visittrivalley.com. But it's interesting because when I was doing my research on this a year or so ago, and then you come up with, hey, well, I've just been there. To me, it kind of looked like there was history, definitely. Look at Eugene O'Neill being there, but also newer neighborhoods. So can you give us an idea of what it's like today?
Today, it is newer. Most of the homes, it's a newer, community, I want to say. Well, it depends, actually. If the further north you go, some of them are a little older, but I think Danville and San Raymond are newer than Livermore and Pleasanton. But you have a kind of a mixed community with the old and the newer residents, and also the centers of towns are older. So Pleasanton is, very old and charming, and the same. I think it's a little more modern, and I felt it was a little more modern in Livermore, but still that same charm in the center of the towns.
Nancy and I were on a road trip a few years back. I'm going to say this was actually a while ago, about 10 years ago. Nancy and I were taking a friend from southern Arizona up to eastern Washington, which has wonderful wines, by the way. And anyway, we're on that road trip, and you get it like, get out of the car. And we pulled over in Livermore, downtown Livermore.
It's beautiful.
And we went into this beautiful restaurant. We sat outside. There were fountains. The downtown looked so charming, quaint, historic, but it had a sense of place. It's like, hey, it's got character. Flowers. It just felt like there could be art galleries, that kind of thing. And I remember drinking wine and going, we're in wine country, and I had no idea. And I just remember going, why are we just stopping here for wine and lunch? You know what I mean? I didn't even know that we were going to get such good wine. But Livermore was awesome for this.
I was sort of like you, because for many years I did dog shows up there, and I never saw the center of the towns, and then I discovered it. And my daughter has relatives up there, so that's when I discovered Pleasanton before I discovered Livermore.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because this is really, really nice. And what was interesting about your article that you talked about the history of this area, because I think a lot of times when we think about wine in California, it's immediately Napa, right? But this is actually an area that has quite a rich wine history, especially with Robert Livermore. And you also talk about Concannon, right? So tell us a little bit about the history that you discovered.
Well, I think it really started with Charles Whitmore, who at the time was the secretary of California's Viticulture Commission, and he established the first winery, and that would have been, I want to say, in the late 1800s. And what most people don't know is he was very early on. He won awards for his wine at like the International Paris exhibition in, I think it was 1889. And so we had to start early on. It wasn't just the Judgment of Paris. We were earlier than Judgment of Paris winning awards. Wow. So, and then after him, I think Wente was established in the late 1800s, as well as Concannon. But like at Concannon, there's an interesting history because one of the, I forget which, I don't know if it was the first or the second generation of Concannons, but one worked with General Pershing. Wow. So, I mean, you have not just wine history, but you've got history, of the United States, involved.
This is fascinating to me. It's like when you think about, how, California and thinking about the 1800s too, when you think about how, San Francisco was established in like the late 1700s, 1776. I know what Juan Bautista came through there. So it's like 77, 1778 is when San Francisco and that region became like, okay, we've got the Presidio now. And then here it comes into, the 1800s. So it's not even like 100 years and we're making wine and we're doing things. And so we're there and going to Paris. When you think about this lineage of time, I don't think a lot of people think that we were around at that point making wine, that we were doing
Well,
it.
You have to remember that with the gold rush, it brought people in. And what do people want to do after they've panned for gold all day? They drink. So they don't just drink hard liquor, some drink wine. So that kind of, if you go to various areas, and we're concentrating on Livermore, but there's other areas where the gold rush was, that they definitely, wine prospered because of that.
That's really fascinating because we talk about this all the time about, wine, vineyards. I know with the mission routes and everything, like El Camino Real and Paso Robles, which you've come on the show and talked about too. So you have the mission trails. And so you've got the missions, and then, the fathers grow the grapes. Tell people to grow them. And then you have the vineyards, right? But we've always found it interesting that wine is being grown in mining communities. And we always wondered, is it because of the limestone? Is it because of the soil? But I never thought about it hey, they're mining, they need wine. I never thought of it that way.
Well, water.
Yeah.
You need water.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Because you get a lot of it up in the, like El Dorado County, and all those areas definitely had, because of the gold rush.
So this area is kind of like, you would say this is east of San Francisco.
Yes.
Kind of, and
it's
south
about
of
45
Oakland.
minutes east of San Francisco.
Yeah, so really easy for Bay Area folks to get to.
Right, and if you're flying in, I suggest flying in to Oakland and taking the BART.
Okay.
Because it's real easy access, and there's a BART line that goes in, ends in Dublin, and it's very easy to get access.
Because the three valleys, when you say Tri-Valley, as you were talking about in the article, it's Amador Valley, Livermore Valley, and then San Ramon Valley. And then you've got Mount Diablo too. So you got the mountains. So this is interesting too, because you've got that kind of inland thing, but still have those coastal breezes coming in. So that's
right.
Got to be good
because it's an east-west, goes east-west. You get the breeze coming through, which is good. Cools down the wine. I mean, not the wine, the grapes. and it cools. Well, I should say cools the temperatures. So you have a diurnal that will be, could be hot during the day, but then cools down at night.
Mm. Now, when you're out there, I know that you've got the history part of it, but you've also got Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. You said is there, and who was Robert Livermore? And you got Lawrence Livermore, so you got a couple Livermores. What's going on? Who's who?
Well, I think they named. I honestly I don't know the background of Lawrence Livermore.
Okay.
Robert Livermore is the one who settled there. Maybe,
Okay.
I don't want to quote something that I don't really know the answer to. I'm sorry.
Sure. She was drinking wine out there, and she's going, there's Livermores everywhere. I'm kidding.
So that question I'll have to answer at another time. But I think that if you're thinking of going back to history, I think what's really important is that during Prohibition, you had Wente, you had Concannon, and during Prohibition, most wineries had to shut down. They continued because they made Sacramento wine. So any winery that did that stayed in business. And so with them, what happened was they had their clones, that I know the Cabernet clone that Concannon had I'm sure was a root that came from Europe. And so they had the mother vine, which you can go see at Concannon. It's kind of it's neat seeing it. And that, once after Prohibition, when it started when the wine industry started growing again, they they went to either Concannon or to Wente to get cuttings so that they can plant. So you'll find that a good portion of California wine, not just in Livermore, but all over, the clones they use are the Wente clone for Chardonnay and the Concannon clones for Cabernet Sauvignon.
Oh, wow.
You wouldn't have it if you didn't have the fathers who needed
wanted their wine
for their congregation.
Yeah. Hey. See,
that's what kept all across the nation, kept a lot of wineries open, because they confiscated property during Prohibition. And I know in some areas they pulled out the vines. And confiscated equipment. So you had to disguise some of the equipment as some used for something else.
but what's so wild though, there's so many interesting Prohibition stories of how people have kept it, like, growing wine under their basement, doing all kinds, growing wine, that sounded good, but making wine and out of all kinds of things, fruit, whatever they could get their hands on. There's so many fascinating stories of that. But to me, it's got to be heartbreaking to have had, here we're coming and we're tearing out your vineyard.
I know, that's
awful. And to start, because we know now how much it takes to open a winery and start growing grapes, and that whole cycle. It's not like you just plant, here's a vine and then next thing you know you've got wine. This is a huge process. So they slowed that cycle down.
Right.
That it was huge, and to be able to have
it was very huge and played a big part. Well, but you always had the bootlegging of all behind it. And I think if you were a homemade winemaker, and I'm not positive, but I think it was okay you could do it just for you, in your home. I don't know though. I didn't live during that time.
Yeah. I know. It's just, to me, this is so fascinating. And Livermore, like, it's just like, hey, I'm holding on to my roots, literally, and we're going to stay here and we're not going to give up. We've got this going. And so now, how many wineries? Over 50 just in Livermore, right?
There's over 50 in Livermore, yeah.
Wow.
It's interesting because, you could just grow grapes. They're really Prohibition, I understand, but there's no need to tear up the grapes because people eat grapes without making them into
but
wine.
It's a different kind of grape that table grapes are very different. So
they're not the emperors or the
Hey, come on.
They're not the Gilberts either.
I'm just giving them a out.
I know.
Cori, here comes the feds. But no, they're just great.
What's interesting, Concannon, there's, these are names also that a lot of us know, just even going to the grocery store and getting, your table wines and things like that. These are wines that people know in California.
Yes.
Obviously there's all different levels and, what kind of wine and, so this is interesting too. So how did it start to really grow? I mean, how many wineries did you get to go to on your trip?
I went, I stayed on, the original part of the trip was a media trip, but then I stayed on. So how many did I go to? I think
I was looking through here and you did good.
I did maybe, I think it's under 10 ones.
Yeah, that's good. 10 is good. We like that.
No,
I think it was more like 8. Maybe between 8 and 10. How's that? We'll say that.
And okay.
But you went to one that this is because I know you're also an artist, but you also found a lady, right? That also makes wine.
Yeah. Darcy Kent is an artist, and she also makes wine. And actually, I loved her artwork. It was very colorful, and it just fit. Well, a lot of it was. She had some that were of vineyards, but she had most of her art was nature, which fit in to, the theme of wine. So
because when you were there, your wine tasting, you've got the wine tasting experience at the vineyard, but you've also got some different experiences that you went through. Tell us about the Three Steves winery, because I like this. 3 friends striving to make the perfect wine.
Cool.
Well, we only met one of the Steves, but they are, characters. They were making wine at home. A lot of these smaller wineries, they start at home and then they expand, but they were also, and I don't have, they also made wine they worked with another company before they started their own winery. And the 3 of them just decided, and it's kind of humorous that the way that the 3 of them are, but their wine is excellent. And they were just the one Steve we met was he was a lot of fun, but you could see how much he loved what he was doing, and that's the thing. You always see the passion.
Yeah. It has to, and you have to have the passion to carry you through, because it's a commitment to make this wine. It takes a while to get there. That was my point about going from Prohibition until now. Here's Livermore blossoming literally with all these wineries and things are happening, but it's been going for so long. So I'm really glad that you're bringing it to our attention. I know we had that wine that day and that afternoon, just hey, and we're this is some nice. Good wine. It was just this little surprise, and then off we go. So I'm really, really thrilled about this, but to hear about there is a passion to keep it going and to not give up with it.
I think it reasserted after Prohibition. There was a slow period. There was a period where they weren't making a lot of wines, but I think you started to see it reassert itself in the 1970s. When you started to see Napa and Sonoma grow, and then it just expanded over the years, and I think it's partially because more people are also interested in drinking wine. So and the sophistication of the wine drinker has grown too.
So, yeah, it has. Of all ages.
Think of what we used to drink in the 1970s to what we drink today. It's quite a bit different.
Are you referring to Ripple?
No,
or was it Lancers, or what we used to call it, Ruckgut or something like that?
Yeah, there was. I just looking at my parents who would buy Ripple, and I just remember the commercials. It's Ripple with that ring-a-ding flavor, and it sucked.
Sorry. Oh, did you steal their wine?
Yes.
Good girl.
Well, because it looked like it would be something interesting to drink, but it wasn't all that good. But then I was a kid. But I just remember Ripple, and I don't know if they're alive today or functioning, and what kind of wine they make now.
I don't think so.
I have no idea, but I just remember it being the laughing stock of lots of comedies.
When did it hit? Because I know California has always been the stamp on wine in this country. Like when you think about wine of America, you think California first. And I know a lot of states. I know we make wine in every single state of the country, and a lot of you have amazing wine. So I don't want to get in trouble.
Even with ice wine.
But yeah, ice wine and all that.
But we weren't the number one originally. If you go back to the 1800s.
Yeah.
Missouri was the number one winemaker till the late 1800s. And then it became California, and then after Prohibition, I think California rose, especially when you had, like, in the 70s, the Judgment of Paris and all that.
Wow.
I think it really changed how the world looked at us, and in terms of wine.
It's interesting.
It took a while.
Yeah, because we've done some interviews out in Missouri area, and I'm going to say Herman.
Yep.
I don't know.
I've been there.
Yeah. Oh wow, cool. And
Stonehill.
Thank you. You got it. I'm sorry, I can't remember every interview we've done over the years, but yeah, that I remember having the wine and thinking this is some like amazing wine, and I'm glad you remember the name. Thank you for that, because their wine was really good, and they had like a Prohibition vineyard too, where they managed to
they're actually, their cave they grew mushrooms in their cave. That's how instead of making wine.
Wow.
That's how they survived.
Wow, this is fascinating. Yeah, I know. But I want
going
to go
off
back
track though, but
I know. I'm going back to Livermore area because we talked about I love to bring up women in the world of wine because again, a lot of times there's that thing of, oh, this is how, men are the dudes who always do it. And I'm going to say over the last 5 to 10 years, we're seeing more and more women in the news and making wine, in the news for making wine. And a lot of times they've always been in the world of wine, but we don't always get to know that. But the other wine lady, Rhonda Wood, so she was a pilot. So check this out.
She was an airline pilot. In fact, she knew Scully because we talked about it when I was there.
Wow.
Scully was the one who landed the plane over the Hudson.
Yeah.
She knew him. I think he lived in California, but I can't remember. Maybe he didn't. But yeah, wow. She just, she only retired. I think she went on leave of absence in 2001, but she fully retired as a pilot in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a big career change.
And how many times do you hear about ladies being the pilot?
Not
just saying that
I think
too.
we've got a lot more now.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. I just want to say it when we can. I just want to say it because it's really
very
cool.
Appropriate right now.
It is, but this is but this came from. Wait a minute. In your article, Wood Family Vineyards started during her pregnancy leave. She started making beer. Okay,
yeah,
so now I really want to meet
today you wouldn't
her.
be drinking beer when you're pregnant. Yeah, it shows
yeah.
how the times have changed because then she had heard something was good for your pregnancy or something. Today they'd tell you not to drink.
See,
I think that there was a time, and I'm not that old, but I'm getting there, where they said that there were vitamins in the hops.
Okay.
So, I'm going by like my grandmother, thinking there's vitamins in hops, like as if you were going to have a salad, so to speak. But maybe the alcohol cancels out the vitamins. I don't know. I'm not a chemist, but there was a time.
Well, you also know that over the years things change. I mean,
exactly.
Look at they go back and forth whether wine is good for you or was it the resveratrol is supposed to be good, but it's what the latest study shows.
That's what we always talk about. It's like science. They learn things every day. Now, Dr. Jackie comes on our shows. She wrote. She's a cardiologist, and she wrote a book, Women and Heart Disease: The Real Story, because that's one of the most important. Like that's what takes us out most, unfortunately. She says 5 ounces a day is what we should have.
But not while you're pregnant.
Not, I don't know. I didn't ask her about that.
No, I think it's a given.
Alcohol. We'll do that. We'll do that.
Not a
That's her next segment. But I want to go back to this because so she was making beer, and so this is interesting that she turned around and went, okay, now I'm going to start making wine. I'm going from beer to wine.
Right.
It's
more ladylike.
This is how she starts her vineyard and her winery.
It's more ladylike.
I think this is great, Cori. I love these stories. So when you were there, is there specific types of wine that you were tasting and what they grow there?
They grow a lot of different varietals, but I mean, I think the area, I mean, it's not considered cool climate, where Pinot Noir is not what they're going to grow there. It's warmer climate. You'll find Bordeaux, a lot of Spanish varietals. There was one particular winery that did make a lot of utilize Spanish varietals, which was Las Pasitas Vineyards. But you're going to see more of the Bordeaux. You've got your Chardonnay, Cabernet. But then you do have some like I remember, and I'm not, I think it was a Gruner Veltlinger that I tried at Darcy, at Darcy Kent. They have, I've tasted several Sauvignon Blancs, both at Stephen Kent and at the Three Steves. But I would say, it was definitely warmer climate varietals.
Nice.
You could do Malbec. I had tasted some Malbec. Also Petite Syrah. And that's where Concannon also was the first to make a single varietal with the Petite Syrah. So that brought that to the forefront.
When you go off as a travel writer and you're going to go to an area, and I know sometimes we have the media trips, like you said, UK, you have the FAM tour. And for listeners who aren't travel writers, you have this trip that you take where you get whirled around to see everything, get your bearings, and taste, do. And it's kind of a whirlwind, but you stayed on longer. But you really do get the stories this way. That's how it happens. And that's a familiarization trip or a media trip, FAM tour, whatever you want to say. But you stayed a little longer. When you go and travel as a writer, especially when it comes to wine, are you looking for specific stories? Because reading this article, what I really enjoyed too was that you brought in the history of it. And I think that's so important that is there, that you have that presence. Are you looking for those stories of who opened the winery and why? Because I even go back to the last time you were on our show last year, talking about Idaho. You were talking about, who opened what and why, and, the names and, how they chose their names, all kinds of cool things like that. It's kind of that story, how they're creating their winemaking legacy. That's what you're looking for mostly?
It's a combination. You're looking to learn about the region, what grows there, the climates, why what that varietal grows. When I said you've got the east, west, the breezes coming in, which helps so much. But then you want to know, the stories are really important. That, that to me, I want to know the history, because that gives me an understanding of how it started and why. And that's me. And it's true of a lot of wine writers. They want to get the background. It's not just tasting the wine, because, it's like when you sit down and drink wine, it also depends on the company you're with for how you like the wine. It's the same thing. It's kind of goes hand in hand, where the history helps you gives you a better understanding and you enjoy the wine more. That doesn't mean you like every wine you taste, but, it does give you a good indication.
Do you think a person who owns and runs a winery has a specific personality?
you get a wide range of personalities.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's different. It's very different. I mean, some of the younger ones, they've got this, they've always wanted to do it. And, a lot of people, as I said, they start in their home or in their backyard, and then if they're successful, they want to expand it. And it's their passion. So they continue it. And some of them have other jobs, all the wineries here. Well, the best example on that is Darcy Kemp, because she creates her art as well as making the wine. But I think all the others their career is the wine, making the wine. And so that's what they love to do. They're doing what they love to do. And that typically reflects in the wine.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what's neat about it, because I look at it as artists and musicians. I think it's the same like chefs, like winemakers. And at the same time, you have to understand the soil. You have to understand the climate, what's going, you've got to, or hire the right people. You're right. There's just these different personalities, but it's finding out where that story comes from,
Well, I think
what led to that.
I also think it's a balance. You have to know some science, but then you can know the science, but then you have to have that creativity. And I always relate a winemaker to an artist, because you have to have a palette to work from. So the various, when you're making a blend, your palette is the various varietals, and how much do you add to make that blend?
Yeah, exactly.
You do that when you're mixing paint.
I like that. That sounds like fun to me, that part.
Yeah, I know. Well, you're an artist, Nancy. Both of you are. So, and you said blend more than once, and so you get a blend award.
If you just mix a little bit more of that color in there, what happens?
Right, and that's the same. I mean, I think they experiment with, all winemakers experiment with that, but that's why my blog is called Written Palette, and the palette is spelled like an artist palette.
Yeah,
because you got all those colors set out, and it's all nice and neat, and then within a couple of seconds, it's got all messy.
But I always look at this, the thing about wine, and I say this all the time on the show, and it's true about, like tequilas and things, but wine, especially single estate tequila, but wine, when you're looking at it, there's never going to be the same wine again. Once it's gone from that year, it's gone. And I find that it's heartbreaking to me every time I even say that. I just like, oh, that was such a good bottle of wine, and now it's gone. And that's the thing about this art. But this is the thing about this art, is that they're creating. If they're making this blend, it's like you can't mess around with it too much. There's a chance. You know what I mean? When you're doing this, I know that. I'm just saying.
When you're cooking something in the kitchen, especially if you're making cakes or something, and you decide to experiment, it could go way wrong real fast.
It's risky. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. And they take chances in it, and I think every business you do, but I just respect the chance.
Well, but the other variable you'll find in wine is if 1 year, let's say I'm going to use we'll use a Bordeaux blend, which usually is Cabernet, Merlot, Malbec, Petit Verdot, and I'm forgetting the fifth one, but at the moment, but Carignan, I think it is. Anyway, 1 year you may have more Cabernet in it than, the percentage of Cabernet versus the other 4 may be different 1 year to the next. And that also is variable on the growing season. The factors of the weather, what's going on, that can change it, especially now when we have warmer, especially in California, warmer weather, that can reflect. And so the percentages in blending are going to be different from year to year.
Which it means you have to be, you're doing that whole creativity, yet dealing with what you have. And, again, what's growing, the weather. That's why my respect to winemakers is just, it's so huge. But Cori, I wanted to ask you, talking about the winemakers, you're going out getting these stories over the years. And for you, what was it where was that point where you said, because I know you collect wine, we've talked about that on the shows before with you, but where was that moment where you said, I'm going to focus on wine in my stories? Yeah, I know you cover other things, but where was it where, hey, I'm doing this?
Don't laugh. My dogs got me there.
I was going to ask about if the area was dog friendly, but okay, no, go. I want to hear about this.
I love it.
Well, someone suggested I start writing about pets, and that because, I know so much. And so after that, I thought, winery dogs. Let's start writing about wineries and their winery dogs. And I took a trip up to Santa Barbara County wine region, and that was where it all started, because I was already into wines. I just wasn't writing about wines, and that's where the turning point was in 2010 when I went with my dog, staying in the Wine Valley Inn, and went to visit wineries that had dogs, and kind of started there. And it just kind of, the people I met up there kind of, it evolved into the point where I'm now writing more about wine than I am about pets.
Wow. And I know that you're known about your Salukis. They're so beautiful. They're so elegant,
Oh, they're beautiful.
They are really, really beautiful. When you were up in the Livermore area, in the Tri-Valley area, are the wineries, I mean, you're talking about wineries with dogs, and I know, I know you went to Julian, now, Mangini Winery, which was Julian's first producing winery. And we've known him over the years. They had Shakespeare. They've had different, dogs. I mean, we've known them for many, many years, let's put it that way. And so dogs come and go through the years. But the dog is the greeting, that your greeter as you go in. And I remember Shakespeare, especially, just being so big and furry, and suddenly you felt like you're in the Alps or something, but you're in Julian. It's a mountain town in San Diego, but you're not in the Alps, but it's beautiful. And that was part of the experience. And some are dog friendly. So where's the balance with that in regards to meeting the dogs, and then being able to bring your dogs?
I think it depends on the winery. So you're finding more and more wineries are dog friendly. In fact, I had talked to, at the time when I went up to Livermore, the head of, she was the executive director of the Visit Tri-Valley. We were talking about bringing a group of writers up with dogs, doing a dog-friendly tour of, what you can see there, which would include some wineries. So off the top of my head, I'm not remembering which wineries were dog-friendly, but my best advice is you call ahead and ask, because some are and some aren't. And you do need well-behaved dogs, especially if they have their own their own dog. There you have to have well-behaved dogs that are going to accept other dogs.
When you travel, do you look at dog parks and things like that, like where you can take your dogs other than the hotel room and stuff? I mean, I know some restaurants are dog friendly, so that means if you have to have a dog that's ready to talk to other dogs and people, and can handle that, and not stay in your purse for the entire time. I don't know. Maybe that's fine. I don't know.
Well, my size dog don't stay in your purse, but
I know, not yours. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about Chihuahua. Well, remember when everybody had their Chihuahua in the purse?
They still do. A lot of people do.
I think
but I think for eating, you have to have a place that has an outdoor area.
Yeah.
I'm not, with my breed of dog, I'm not one to go to a dog park. When I say dog park, the one where they let you run free, I myself am hesitant about it. But you want a nice area where you can walk them. So any park, parks are nice to be close to, and I say, I always check with the hotel that there's a green belt nearby to walk them.
A green belt, so that's not on the tarmac or asphalt, as you say here. Yeah, because I look at people take their dogs to the dog park, and I'm like, we have like a hotel circle area here in Tucson, well, actually, where we are near Marana, right outside Saguaro National Park, and there's these parks, and you see, oh, there's a dog park, and you see people just let their dogs off, and I'm like, uh-oh, like I would worry, like I don't know, like I don't have a dog anymore, but like I would be, I don't know how that whole thing works, you know.
But the dog personality, I mean, you know the personality of your dog.
I know. But you have to basically, don't you have to trust the owner of the dog more than the dog? When you get into that situation.
Well, you just don't know, and you know, like humans, there's some people you like and some people you don't. Dogs have the same thing. I mean,
exactly.
I've had my dogs just turn off to a particular dog, and that's, you know, and you can be in a park and that can happen, and I don't want it. I don't want to have a problem, you know.
Exactly.
I just walked my dog. I was in my community and someone was walking their dog, and another dog went by, and that dog decided it didn't like that dog, you know, and so it just, it could be a scent, it could be anything.
Yeah.
I do have to say, getting back to that, there are a lot of dog-friendly hotels up in Livermore and in Dublin, which is all part of that area. There are a tremendous amount of dog-friendly hotels. I mean, I didn't happen to stay at one, but I do know there are a lot of dog-friendly hotels there.
That's good. And so check that out again. Do your, you know, calling beforehand. So where did you stay?
This trip I stayed at the I'm sorry, Hawthorne Suites, which I actually really liked. It was quite nice. The rooms were very nice and spacious, but I will say they do not allow dogs.
Okay.
I mean, if you're looking for a luxury hotel, I'd love to go back and stay there. I fell in love. It's called the Rose, and it's Rose Hotel, and it's in Pleasanton, and it's quite nice.
So there's a lot of different options when you look at it, and you've got that you're in the.
And they're all really close together, the different towns.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. That makes it easier to get around. Now, what about the food? If you're in a wine area, I mean, I remember Nancy. I mean, this was a long time ago that we just kind of detoured and got to Livermore and had a fabulous lunch. What's the food like there? Because I know sometimes, like, you got the Santa Maria style, or, you know, when you're in Santa Maria, you've got the steak and everything. You know, everyone's got a different thing.
I think you'll find it's very eclectic. You've got Spanish, you've got Asian, it's very eclectic. I know one night we went to a Spanish restaurant with the tapas.
Right.
Another night, I mean, I highly recommend the Wente restaurant because the food is fabulous. Huge portions, but fabulous. And you know, we tried several restaurants, especially since I stayed on a couple extra days. I went to, you know, we went to some additional restaurants that I'd heard about up there.
I love this. A nice variety of food, good variety of wines. You know, I like this. Dog friendly for those who are taking their you know, four-legged family members on the road. That's good. And then also, lastly, you know, because I was talking about the Eugene O'Neill National Historic Site that I know Nancy and I went to. I know you didn't get a chance to go up there yet. But you also, there's like other things out there. There's art galleries. You mentioned also in your article the Black Hawk Museum in Danville. So this is like a car museum, right?
It's mainly cars. The owner collects cars, and it's fascinating. I mean, you know, depending on what car show they have going on there. But I found it fascinating. I took lots of pictures of the cars, and then but they also have other exhibits. They've got an African exhibit, and the other one that's in that museum that's really good, nice to see, is the Spirit of the Old West. It's miniatures. The whole floor, or the room, you know, vast room, has the history of the West, and it's really interesting to look at. It's was really fascinating, to see the different layouts they've set.
How much fun to make something like that.
I know.
That sounds like fun to me. That's a project I'd love.
It kind of, when I was telling you about it, reminded me of the Folk Art Museum in Santa Fe. It kind of it's not like that at all, but, bringing all the pieces together to,
tell the story.
Yeah, to tell the story.
Very nice.
In a visual way.
Yeah.
I think that means something to people who are visual, and
so many of us are. I mean, we're all looking at Instagram and Facebook photos, and so that's part of it. And I want to tell everybody again, Cori's article is up on blendradioandtv.com. Just type in Cori or type in Livermore. And also it'll be featured in the November through January issue of Big Blend Radio and TV magazine. But also keep up with Cori and her travels and her salukis and her art. Go to writtenpalette.com. And also, again, for the Tri-Valley region, go to visittривalley.com. And also, when it comes to the Livermore wine region, go to lvwine.org. Two websites definitely to keep up with. So thank you so much for joining us, Cori. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
I know, man. You guys, we always talk about the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. I always have to remind everyone it's IFTWA. We always say IFTWA, but you IFTWA nights get around a lot. I know, the IFTWA nights. It's your new name. You really do get around to all kinds of places. Where's your next destination?
Well, I just got back from Oregon, so I'm not sure where my next. I think it's going to be Illinois, but I'm not sure yet.
Ooh, Illinois.
So cool. I'm home for a few weeks.
For a few weeks, I know. Then you're off again, right? That's awesome.
It depends when I go. Yes.
Oh, there you go. You never know. I know, but Illinois. Hey, you'll find
kind
wine
of look
there.
at what opportunities do you have come to you, and then you decide where you're going.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I can do this now. I'll do it now. I want to encourage everyone that's in the world of writing food, wine, travel stories. If you're blogging, photographing, filmmaking, also the destinations to go to the website for the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. It's ifwtwa.org, and connect with them. Because really, I think you found that, right, Cori, that everyone does come together with this, whether it's at a conference or connecting and networking or going on trips. There's just so many opportunities with the organization.
There's great opportunities, and it's for a writer, it's good because it's good for your resume, and, your PR looks at what organizations you're involved with, and that's one that I talk to PR about it, and that's one that they definitely like to see that on your resume.
Cool. Exactly, for sure. And they really are international too, which is awesome. And thank you all for joining us here on Big Blend Radio. Of course, we always have music to close off our segments. And today we've got a song, it's called Summer Wine. It's one of my favorite wine songs. And I know it's not summer now.
It just went out the window.
I know, but like Cori was saying, Livermore and the Tri-Valley areas are a little bit warmer than the Bay Area.
Yes,
and so I wanted to just have that little summer experience, because you can still have that in California versus if you're in, the middle of the Midwest snow. You know what I mean? So this is Summer Wine. It's from Shelley King. You can go to her website, shelleyking.com, and it's off of her album Fan Fave. So we're going to play that. And don't forget, Big Blend Radio airs Sunday through Friday. You can keep up with our shows. You can listen as they broadcast or anytime later on demand. Just go to bigblendradio.com for the schedule. Thank you so much for joining us, Cori. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Here it is, everyone. Some summer wine.
I've been thinking about getting away. Baby, I just need a little escape. away from all this busying around. Find a little time to come unwound. It's so easy to get caught up in this race, with so many dreams to chase. Then I hear that song on the radio, making me wanna go out in the sunshine, sip a little summer wine, slow dancing in the park, stay there till after dark. Sweet sound, soft and low, song on the radio. Maybe we could take a little drive out past the city to the countryside, holding hands and talking about love, away from all this push and shove. Take some time to look into your eyes, reconnect our disconnected lives. Remember how it used to be, when all that mattered was you and me. It's so easy to get caught up in this race, with so little time to waste. Then I hear that song on the radio, making me wanna go out in the sunshine, sip a little summer wine, slow dancing in the park, stay there till after dark. Sweet sound, soft and low, song on the radio. After all is said and done, you know you are my only one. Oh, darling, give your love to me. Then we'll hear our song on the radio, making us wanna go out in the sunshine, sip a little summer wine, slow dancing in the park, stay there till after dark. Sweet sound, soft and low, song on the radio. Do 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 do.